one. What's going on, everybody? Segment 3 here with Mike Zuber from One Rental at a Time. We have the privilege of having not only a landlord of almost 200 units on today, but someone that has about a third of his portfolio in public housing.
Yes, on purpose.
On purpose, which I love. And quite frankly, Mike is largely the reason that I started looking at my portfolio differently. And it was always something we were trying to help people kind of outside that system. And we constantly were getting burned. And so we decided to engage them, have conversation with them, meet them. So your network is your net worth. We spent a bunch of time doing that and having those relationships and starting those relationships and having those conversations. And so one of the very interesting things is that, Mike, what was very interesting to me is I had just purchased a building and it's a 12 unit, and 3 of the folks in that 12 unit are actually on housing.
Okay.
So I'm like, awesome. I get to naturally add to it.
Yeah.
Right. So we close on the transaction. I send out my introductory letter to everybody, waiting for everybody, their feedback, give me their contact information, etc. And in this particular case, none of the housing people actually got back to me. None of the tenants that were in housing actually got back to me. So I said, that's interesting. Okay. So I call housing. Housing says, we are not going to pay you rent. Okay. And I said, okay. Why?
Why? Yeah. Why?
And she said, because there's a number of maintenance issues. Oh, sounds okay.
All right.
Tell me, do you have a list of them? Tell me what they are. I mean, am I going to guess?
Yeah.
So what was really interesting to me is that this previous landlord, in the process of this deal, he had been getting letters since July.
Yeah.
About these issues.
I've seen this. Yeah.
Right. So he's been getting letters for 4 months about these issues. Now I'm the new owner. They're my responsibility, 100%. Like we talked about last week, you don't always get to look at all the units. Totally fine. So it's fine. And here's the funny thing. I absolutely blew her doors off when I said, great, can you just send me the list so we can start working on it? Sure. Yeah. Here's my email. Send me the list. We've already started working on the list. So I think what's really interesting, Mike, and I was wondering if you've ever seen this, in acquiring any of those properties, did you ever find that there was something there that you didn't know about, kind of like this? I mean, is this kind of standard process? And like, how does one get around this when flat out clearly the seller was just not communicating and not telling us, but he also wasn't communicating with housing?
Yeah. So this is abnormal, right? I often say that sellers are liars. You had a slumlord as far as I'm concerned.
Clearly,
right?
100%.
That's what you did.
Yeah.
So no, I have had that happen before. But yeah, as long as you go, all Section 8 or housing, as we're calling it here, is a wonderful organization that just wants to make sure that their tenants are living in safe and secure housing.
Completely agree.
And they have the power, rightly so, to withhold rent if they are not being listened to. But they bend over backwards. They have probably given that landlord at least 3 letters before they make the threat of not paying rent.
Well, you've got July, August, September, October. I didn't close until towards the end of October.
Yeah. So it's an unfortunate situation. Sure. I think there's a special place in hell for slumlords.
Agreed.
And but when you come in and you do the right things, they'll make up for it. Section 8 will always pay back rent. They will inspect it to make sure you're not a one-hit wonder. You should expect that coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a wonderful program.
Would you, I'm always about learning. Clearly, what I've learned about this process is he was a slumlord. Like, there's just, we sent out the letter, all 12 people, we posted on their door. We have since followed up another posting on all of their doors with another letter, basically just saying, hey, of the people that got back to us, there were 47 open issues. In the first 2 weeks of owning the property, we've addressed 28 of them.
Right.
We're getting to the other ones. We're just waiting our turn in line with those contractors, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're evaluating a deal like this that might have Section 8 or housing or voucher program, if I had to do over again, because I'm a big guy on learning lessons once,
yeah,
I would probably reach out to housing before closing and say,
yeah,
is this landlord in good standing?
yeah. The good news is,
Would they answer that question?
yes.
Okay.
Well, be very clear. They would not talk about the landlord. They'll talk about the building.
Got it. Okay.
Right. If you ask
To
about
me,
the
it's the
landlord,
same. Yeah, sure.
well, I agree, but
Yeah,
they'll talk about the building. They won't talk about the owner.
sure.
Right. Just that's just how they. But yeah, they would likely answer that. You could answer questions like you would probably have to show them that you're in escrow, right?
Yep.
So you'd have to prove it.
Sure.
You could ask about the tenants, right? You've been told the tenants are these names, right? Because you probably have a estoppel, a rental estoppel. And yeah, they could validate things. They can validate move-ins. You could ask things about when was the last rent increase. I probably would ask that. I would probably ask to see the last inspections, which is probably a way around, is this guy, because they may not answer it outright, but you could ask for the inspection report. In California, they do it once a year.
Yep.
I assume the same there, but don't know.
They do it the same here. And I did ask for those. That's a great tip. I did actually ask for those and I got them. And it's a couple of issues. I mean, it's maybe a couple of days worth of work, but I completely understand. It's not a problem.
Yeah. And the other thing I like about those reports is they, at least in California, and I assume it's everywhere, it also reports on the tenant, right? I get reports back in my units, and if you want to, you can get mad. Oh, the tile's broken. Well, I didn't break the tile. But again, right, the carpet's coming up. Oh, I didn't do that. But also it'll say things like tenant, clean your house more often, or, stop letting the kids run. It reports on the tenant. So you can get a little peekaboo inside the tenant that you're inheriting as well.
Interesting. Mike, as always, this comes from the wealth of knowledge of you having done it, having lived it, understand these processes. Again, for me, the only part of my journey that I can share is I now have housing tenants that I've had for 5 months.
Nice.
That's it. That's my ceiling. Cause I bought a building that had a couple housing tenants in it. Overall, it's been a good experience, because I think that one of the things that's nice about the people that run these different offices is that they recognize that it's a partnership between the landlord and the office. And they say, we do demand that you have nice, safe housing for our tenants. However, we're going to hold them to a standard, and you can hold us to the standard that we're going to pay.
Absolutely. And, it's a long-term relationship. They also, let's be very clear. The folks that work in housing do not want to piss off landlords, because again, they have stacks of approved vouchers, and the supply of landlords that are saying yes is shrinking every day.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can take advantage of them either. But yeah, it's a wonderful program.
I agree.
I have had, when you look at my entire track record of having thousands of tenants now, I have 5 horror stories. 3 were cash and 2 were Section 8. It doesn't matter where the money comes from. People are people.
Agreed. And I think that that's important too, because I think that if people think that they're going to do something different than they do in the rest of their business, why?
It doesn't matter where their money comes from.
It doesn't. It just doesn't. You either want to be helping and part of the solution or not, but just pick one side or the other. But also understand going into it, this for me was, we know that they're going to do a better job than us of what they're doing for those folks. So yeah, I think it's a great program. I think that I'm super blessed in my area I've worked with 2 out of the 3, and they've been awesome. They've been very forthright. Hey, here's why this is a problem. Here's what we need to see you do. And it's not just ever because I told you so. It's been great. They've actually given me reason, helped me understand, and that's going to make us better at understanding. Yeah. We did 2 walkthroughs and she was like, okay, this is what needs to be done. We did the 3rd one. She's like, Matt, perfect. I was like, awesome. Got it.
And the last thing I want to say is, a lot of people get upset with the inspection reports. As someone who pays a property manager, I use those to check the checker, right? Because I hold my property manager to a certain level.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I want to say is about 90% or so of the things that they identify, I would have fixed anyway, if I knew. Mm-hmm. Right. There is that low 10%, maybe single digits, like really. Mm-hmm. But I'll take the good with the bad.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, it's like you said. I mean, if that's such a small percentage, very, very easy to live with, and just one of those things where you kind of scratch your head and go, all right, fine. If you really need that.
Government bureaucracy. Okay, I'll write that off. 10%.
Exactly. It is what it is. Mike, tell everybody where they can find you. I think these are some amazing points that you've given us specifically on housing and the voucher program and really understanding what that better process is for purchasing. So where can everybody find you?
One rental at a time.
It's a lot of fun, folks. Look at the course. He's a free course that kind of gets you warmed up for what you're going to find in the real course. Saturdays with Mike on his channel, on his live stream. It's a fantastic live stream, lots of interaction, lots of questions. Mike makes himself available for that hour. But just for me, because I need to be able to bring at least as much value as Mike can, it just takes me 3 hours to do it.
Stop. No,
so
your discipline is much better than mine. I couldn't go 3 hours. My voice would crush me.
Yeah. Mike goes for, well, it's all those, it's all that singing that I do.
Yeah.
So Mike goes for that hour. It's a blast on Saturdays. And then on Sundays, 11:30 Eastern time, live stream on Lumberjack Landlord, 11:30 Eastern time. We go for about 3 hours. Your questions, my answers. As I always say, we spend a ton of time creating great content for you guys. Please subscribe, hit the like button. And if you don't catch this on Lumberjack Landlord on Friday, you will see it on Mike's channel, One Rental at a Time, on Saturday. So Mike, thanks again, my friend. Have a great weekend.
Take care. Thanks.
Take care.